I was the kid they called when something broke, not when something happened. When the faucet leaked? I was the first number on speed dial. When my cousin's Xbox stopped turning on. Suddenly I was family. But when I graduated trade school, not even a group text. Just a thumbs up from my mom. The default one. Beige skin tone. Like she was scared to commit even to that. I grew up in a house where accomplishments were graded on vibes, and mine never passed the test. My sister Claire could sneeze near a piano and be called musically gifted. I built a shed at 15, wired the whole thing myself, and my dad just said, "You should have leveled the bass better." So yeah? I stopped expecting applause early. I was just the kid who fixed things. Silently. Cheaply. Reliably. And that's exactly how they treated me, like some backup generator they could kick when the lights went out. But I wasn't angry. Not then. Because I had a plan. While Claire was busy, finding herself, on Instagram and racking up likes for doing yoga in rented Airbnbs, I was working double shifts at the warehouse. Saving every cent eating canned soup like it was gourmet. Watching YouTube videos on drywall repair like they were Netflix thrillers. I didn't complain. Didn't post. Just worked. Then came the duplex job, the one that changed everything. A guy from the neighborhood needed a full HVAC overhaul. I didn't blink. Took it on solo, finished early, and word got out. Suddenly I wasn't just the kid who fixes things. I was Nate. The guy who knows his stuff. 2 more jobs came in. Then 4. Then 10. And one day, I checked my account and realized something wild. I could do it. I could buy a house. Not a mansion. Not even a 3-bedroom. Just a solid place with a backyard and walls I could patch myself. Something real. And I did. At 26, I signed the papers with calloused hands and a grin no one saw. Because I didn't tell anyone. Not at first. I wanted to do it right. I spent weeks painting every wall. Replacing light switches. Fixing door hinges that squeaked like haunted dolls. My neighbor across the street, a retired vet with a beer belly and a basset hound named Kevin, gave me a thumbs up when he saw me working. "You're the real deal, kid," he said once, leaning on his fence. That meant more to me than anything my parents had said in 5 years. Still, part of me hoped, maybe hoped too much, that this would be the moment they'd see me. Not as the spare tire. Not as the handy one. But as someone worth showing up for. So I caved. I sent a group text to the family. No emojis. No begging. Just, "Hey. Bought my first house. Barbecue this Saturday. Would love to have you all over." Claire left me on read. My dad didn't reply. My mom just wrote, "That's nice. Claire's got big news too." I didn't even ask what it was. Because I already knew. It would be shiny. Loud. Something with a loan attached and a photo shoot planned. But I didn't let that ruin the moment. Instead, I got to work. I borrowed a smoker from Kevin. Bought lights for the backyard. Set up a little fold-out table with paper plates, and that red checkered tablecloth that only appears when people try really hard to act like a happy family. I even bought champagne. Not the fancy kind, just something cold that popped loud and tasted like. Finally. Because this was it. My home. My space. My celebration. And all I wanted, was for them to show up. Even just one of them. To sit on the plastic chair I'd wiped down 3 times and say, "This is nice, Nate." But as the hours ticked by, and the food stayed untouched, and the music played to no one, I started to realize something. They weren't coming. By 1 p.m. The smoker was going strong. Thick curls of hickory smoke floated into the air, and if I closed my eyes I could almost pretend they were coming for that, the food, the warmth, the celebration. I'd even gone the extra mile. Red checkered plates. Plastic forks in mason jars. Lemonade in pitchers with actual citrus slices. Even a citronella candle, just because my mom hated the smell. Part of me thought maybe she'd walk in, wrinkle her nose, and say, Trying a bit hard, aren't we? I would have taken it. I would have taken anything. But by 2 p.m., the only guests were wasps. Not a single message. No. We're running late. Just silence. I refreshed the group text. Nothing. So I grabbed a soda, sat in one of the new lawn chairs I'd assembled myself, and waited. Kevin, my neighbor, called from across the street. You throwing a party or just feeding squirrels? Both, I called back. Only one of them shows up. He laughed. Save me a plate. I nodded, but my stomach was already twisting. By 3 p.m., the brisket was ready. Juicy, tender, perfectly smoked. I laid it out, buns, toppings, sides, the whole setup. It looked like something out of a summer cookout commercial. And no one was there to see it. I cracked open the champagne, not the fancy kind, just a bottle I'd saved for when everyone's here. And then I made the mistake. I opened Instagram. Claire had just posted her, posing beside a gleaming white SUV with bows on the mirrors. Sunglasses on. Holding the key fob like she'd won a reality show. Caption. Dreams come true, dizzy first ride in the beast. Thanks mom and dad, sparkling heart, #SUV goals. The next photo hit harder. My mom with her arm looped through Claire's. My dad crouched by the bumper, giving a thumbs up. They looked proud. Giddy. Like they were celebrating a wedding. That's where they were. Not too busy. Not caught up. They'd skipped my barbecue to take selfies at a dealership. They weren't coming. And they hadn't planned to. I stared at the post for a while. Scrolled through the comments. All heart emojis and well-deserved praise. I thought about how Claire had failed her real estate license twice. How she once cried because the dealership offered her a basic loan package. How she told me my mechanic certification was cute. I set the phone down. Face down. Didn't scream. Didn't throw it. Just stared at the food. Tried to eat. Nothing tasted like anything. Not even the brisket, which was probably the best I'd ever made. The champagne went down like glue. I looked around. The lights I'd strung across the fence had kicked on, soft, warm, glowing like they were trying to comfort me. I sat there, under those lights, listening to Aretha Franklin play through a Bluetooth speaker, wondering how I'd convinced myself they'd ever come. I'd bought a house with my own money. Painted every wall. Cut the lawn. Wired the fixtures. Put out food. Set up chairs. All for people who didn't bother to show. I sat alone. Kevin barked at a squirrel. My yard glowed like a movie set with no actors. And finally, I stood up and went inside. That's when my phone buzzed. A message. From my mom. Not an apology. Not a sorry we missed it. Just a link to Claire's Instagram post. With one line beneath it. Isn't she stunning? Your sister deserves the best. I didn't reply. I just looked at the text, then at the dishes in my sink. And I made one quiet promise. Next time they needed anything, even a light bulb changed, I'd be the one who didn't show. The next morning, I didn't rush to check my phone. Not because I was busy, I wasn't. But because I already knew what wouldn't be there. No apology. No. Sorry we missed it. No leftover guilt wrapped in emojis. So instead I made coffee. Black. Bitter. The way my dad said real men drank it, even though he always added 2 sugars when no one was looking. I stared at the fridge, still full of untouched barbecue. Ribs, burgers, soda, coleslaw, potato salad. Enough to feed a family. Ironic, since mine didn't show. Then I stepped outside to clean the grill. Not because anyone asked. Just because that's what I do. I fix things. Even when no one uses them. As I scrubbed yesterday's Hope off metal grates, I thought about how many times I'd been their fixer. When the kitchen sink backed up mid-holiday, I skipped work and drove 2 hours to fix it. When Claire locked herself out during a mental wellness staycation, I was there. When their AC died last July and my dad called it life or death, I installed a whole new unit, for free. He called me the family hero, then didn't return my texts for 6 months. It was always like that. They needed me, I showed up, they moved on. But this time? I was done. At least that's what I told myself, until my phone buzzed on the patio chair next to me. Once. Then again. Then 4 more times. 6 missed calls. All from Dad. I stared at the screen like it was a foreign number. Like the name, Dad, didn't feel quite right anymore. Then came the text. Pick up. It's serious. No greeting. No. Hey, son. Just an order. Like I was a delivery service they forgot to tip. I didn't panic. Didn't even flinch. Instead, I set the phone on the patio table and kept hosing down the smoker. The meat drippings from the night before were stubborn. Stuck. Burned in. Kind of like the stuff I'd been swallowing for years. 10 minutes later, another text. We need you to come by. Something happened. That's it. No context. No. How are you? No acknowledgement of yesterday. Just straight to business. Of course. I wasn't the son who bought a house. I was the emergency technician on call, for free. I sat down in the chair, watched the breeze flutter the party napkins I never got to use, and thought about all the times they needed me. Dad's truck battery died in winter? I jumped it. The deck was collapsing? I rebuilt it, even stained it. Claire's ex slashed her tires? I changed them in the rain while she scrolled TikTok in the car. Not once did they say, you shouldn't have. It was always, you should, because you can. And when I finally did something for myself? A house? A celebration? They ghosted me for a photo op. My stomach twisted as I opened Instagram again. Claire had posted another update. This time, she tied balloons to the SUV. The caption? Meet Bianca Kiss Mark, she's got personality and horsepower. Hashtag spoiled, hashtag queen things. Mom had commented. We're so proud of you, honey. You deserve the world, 2 hearts. I stared at that word, deserve. As if Claire had earned her SUV by existing. Meanwhile, I was the one who patched every leak in this family and never got more than a thank you sandwich. The phone buzzed again. Call number 7. I let it ring. Then one more. And finally, silence. I picked it up. Not to answer, just to look at it. And for a second I hesitated. Because the old me? The fixer? The helper? He would have been in the truck already. But not this time. This time I let that hesitation settle in. Then I typed one word. Slowly. Deliberately. Busy. And hit send. By Sunday afternoon, I thought maybe they'd taken the hint. The phone had been quiet since that one-word reply. Busy. No apology. No follow-up. No. Sorry we missed your big day. And honestly, I felt better than I expected. I cleaned up the patio, threw out half a tray of untouched sliders, and lit a cheap candle just to chase away the smell of burned-out expectations. That peace lasted until 6:43 p.m. That's when I heard tires crunching the gravel outside. I walked over to the window and peeked through the blinds. Of course. It was them. Dad behind the wheel, looking like someone owed him rent. Mom in the passenger seat, holding something in her lap, probably one of those awful fruit baskets she brings when she feels guilty. And Claire in the back, texting, chewing gum, wearing sunglasses like she was in a promo shoot. And there it was, the SUV. Bianca. Still glistening. Still wearing balloons like it was prom night. I didn't move. They rang the bell. Then again. Then knocked like it was urgent. I waited. Not because I was trying to be dramatic. I just didn't feel like opening the door for people who couldn't bother to show up for ribs and lemonade, but somehow found my house the second they're precious. Bianca, got a boo-boo. Eventually I opened it. Not out of politeness. Mostly so my neighbor Kevin wouldn't think someone was trying to rob me. Dad didn't waste a second. Why didn't you answer your phone? I did. I said. You texted? I replied. Mom stepped forward. We need your help. It's Claire. Something happened. I looked at Claire. She was pouting, arms crossed, like she'd been asked to do manual labor. She finally looked up from her phone. Some idiot at the car wash scraped Bianca's side mirror. And then just drove off. Can you believe that? I waited. Blinked once. Okay, and? They all stared at me like I'd missed the part where this became my problem. Claire rolled her eyes. Can you just fix it already? I tilted my head. You drove over here to ask me to buff a scratch off a car you didn't even invite me to celebrate? Dad jumped in. It's not a scratch. It's a gash. I sighed. Show me. I stepped outside, mostly because I didn't trust Claire to describe car damage with any kind of logic. She once called a loose bumper a flat tire. I walked around to the passenger side. It was a scratch. Not deep. Not cracked. Just surface-level paint transfer. Probably from brushing a pole or the corner of a vacuum kiosk. Claire hovered behind me. So? Can you fix it? I turned slowly. You know what would fix this? A basic detail job. Maybe $150. She groaned like I'd suggested selling a kidney. But you could do it for free. Sure could, I said. But then I'd be enabling the same people who skipped my housewarming and posted balloon pics instead. Mom tensed. You never said it was that important. It was my first house, I said. Forgive me for thinking that meant something. Dad crossed his arms. Are you going to help your sister or not? There it was. The line. The line that said, this isn't about fairness. This is about what you're good for. I looked at all three of them. Claire was already turning away like the deal was done. Mom had that glazed-over smile she puts on when she wants to pretend we're all one big happy Hallmark family. And Dad? He just looked irritated. Like I was the one ruining his Sunday. You know, I said slowly, I used to think helping out meant they'd eventually treat me like part of the family. Claire snorted. You're being weird. Maybe, I said. But at least I'm not naming a leased car Bianca. She gasped. She's not leased. Mom stepped forward. Nate. Don't be petty. She's had a rough week. Yeah, I said. So have I. I walked back toward the front door. Dad tried again. Son, we're just asking for a little help. You've always been so reliable. I paused. That word. Reliable. The prettiest cage they'd ever put me in. I turned around. You're right. I am reliable. Which is why I reliably smoked 3 racks of ribs yesterday. Bought champagne. Cleaned the house. Set a table. I held their eyes one by one. And guess who didn't show? None of them spoke. So I smiled, soft and polite. You need a repair? Call a shop. You need free labor? Check Craigslist. But don't come here thinking I'm still the guy who drops everything. Claire huffed. So that's a no? That's a never again, I said. And I shut the door. They didn't knock again. They just stood there on the porch for a bit, awkward, uncomfortable, like they'd forgotten what it felt like to be unwelcome. I didn't move. I just stood inside, leaning against the kitchen counter, watching them through the window like they were strangers from another neighborhood. Eventually they left. Claire slammed the SUV door so hard I swear the balloons tied to the mirrors jumped. My mom tried to smooth it over, gesturing with her hands like she was narrating a soap opera. Dad drove off like he was late for something, probably the next time he needed me. I didn't feel angry. I didn't even feel sad. I just felt untangled. The next day, my phone buzzed again. Not a call this time, just a text from Mom. Don't be like this. Claire is upset. Can we talk? Then, about an hour later. Your father says this isn't how family behaves. You're acting selfish. And finally, like they couldn't help themselves. We raised you better than this. I read that one twice. Better than this? They raised me to be quiet. To be helpful. To say, it's fine. Even when it wasn't. To cover, fix, lift, deliver, all without expecting anything back. They raised Claire to expect everything. And they raised me to expect nothing. So, no, They didn't raise me better. They raised me tired. By Wednesday, Claire texted, "Hey, can you drive me to my lash appointment? Bianca's mirror is still scratched, and I don't want her seen like this." I stared at it. No apology. No context. Not even a "please." Just Claire, assuming I'd drop everything. I didn't respond. 15 minutes later, another text buzzed in. "Hello? You literally live 10 minutes from me." Still didn't reply. An hour after that. "I know you're not ignoring me. I know you saw this." This time I replied, "Busy." She hit me back immediately. "Wow. You're such a child." And you know what? I didn't even get mad. Because I'd finally realized something. Claire didn't want a brother. She wanted a free Uber driver with a wrench set. That weekend I ran into Kevin while taking out the trash. He waved from across the yard. "You still cleaning up from that feast?" Smelled incredible. I laughed. "Most expensive meal I've ever thrown for ghosts." He grinned. "Still waiting for my invite, by the way." "Next time," I said. "Only good people invited." He raised an eyebrow. "That family of yours never came, huh?" "Nope," I said. "But their card did." "Wait, what?" "Long story." I smiled. "Too many balloons. Not enough brains." Kevin cackled. Classic. And for the first time in a while, I didn't feel like explaining. I didn't feel embarrassed. Just free. Sunday night, I got one more text. This time from Dad. "Your mother's exhausted. Claire needs help moving furniture into her apartment. Come by." That old tone again, like a boss calling a late employee. I stared at the message. "No, please. No, would you mind? Just another unpaid shift at the job I never applied for." I put my phone down. Walked to the garage. Looked at my own truck, the one I'd paid off in full, repaired myself, and insured without anyone's help. And I thought about how many times it had been their moving van, Uber, or grocery shuttle. How many weekends I'd burned just showing up because they didn't want to rent a truck or hire a mover. I pulled my phone back out. Typed 3 words. Slowly. Deliberately. "Hire a mover." Then I put it on Do Not Disturb, popped in my earbuds, and went back to repainting the porch. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting to be needed. I was just living. It's wild how fast silence can turn into chaos, not for the person who's silent, but for the ones who don't know how to function without noise. By the end of that week, the messages slowed. Mom stopped guilt texting. Dad went radio silent. Claire stopped demanding rides. It felt like peace. Until the cracks started showing. It began with Claire, obviously. She posted a brunch selfie, glass of Ken champagne in hand, with her usual pout and a caption that read, "Self-care Sunday. Don't need nobody nail polish." But there, right in the corner of the shot, Bianca's mirror. Still scratched. Still taped. The comments were noticed. "Did your SUV get keyed? Girl, what happened to your ride?" Loudly crying face. "Get that fixed, sis. Skull. Bianca deserves better." And then came Claire's passive-aggressive reply. "I would fix it, but some people are too petty to help." Some people. Imagine being the some in someone else's ego saga. I didn't reply. Just screenshotted it and dropped it in a folder I'd made that week called Evidence I'm Not Crazy. Then came the ripple effect. Apparently, their living room thermostat gave out. It was one of those digital ones I'd installed last summer. And guess who used to recalibrate it every time Dad couldn't figure out the app? This time? He tried himself. And managed to set the house to vacation mode, which turned the AC off entirely in 90 degrees heat. Melanie, my cousin, texted me midweek. "Uncle Jeff is melting down." Literally. I heard him yelling about smart devices ruining America, face with tears of joy. I asked, "Did he call a tech?" She said, "Nah. He said you'll come around? He's just waiting you out." Heh. By Thursday, I got a voicemail from Mom. Her voice was that soft, trembly version she used whenever she needed a favor but didn't want to sound demanding. "Hi, honey, just checking in. We really could use your help." Something happened with the basement lights. "It's probably nothing, but your dad tried looking at it, and now everything's flickering. Also, the ceiling fan in the kitchen isn't turning on." I didn't even finish it. I just hit delete. I wasn't angry. Just done. Friday came with a new twist. Claire posted a voice note on her story, one of those dramatic rants she thought made her sound empowered. Honestly? Family can be so fake. People only support you when it benefits them. But I'm done asking for help. I'm not chasing energy anymore. I'm reclaiming it. With a crying emoji. And a sparkle. Followed by a poll. Have you ever been betrayed by your sibling? I voted no. That weekend I saw Kevin again while putting in new porch lights. He pointed to the backyard. Getting ready for round 2? Just making things brighter, I said. He sipped his coffee. Your family ever make up for missing the first one? I shrugged. They tried showing up when something broke. He laughed. Sounds familiar. My cousin only calls when her car won't start. What did you do? I asked. Gave her a list of local tow trucks. He smirked. Noted. Then, Sunday morning it happened. A call, not from them, but from their landlord. Apparently, their water heater blew. Full hallway flood. Dad tried turning off the wrong valve. Water sprayed for hours before someone finally shut it off. They'd called a plumber who quoted them $500 just to show up. Guess who they didn't want to pay? So they gave the landlord my number, from a Christmas card I stupidly signed last year. Hi, Nathan. I was told you're the family handyman. They said you'd probably be willing to stop by. I took a deep breath. Yeah. I used to be. Click. Later that day, I checked my phone. One message from Mom. We could really use your help. It's serious this time. Serious. That word again. It used to activate me. Now it just reminded me of all the things they never called serious. My housewarming. My effort. My time. They only call it serious when they're uncomfortable. I set the phone down. Turned on my porch lights. And sat outside with a beer, legs kicked up, feeling the quiet hum of my own boundaries. Sunday evening was golden. The porch was freshly painted, the new lights looked better than I expected, and I'd just thrown some marinated chicken on the grill, for me. No guests. No expectations. Just jazz playing through my Bluetooth speaker and a cold drink sweating in my hand. I'd barely turned the chicken when I heard it. The car. I didn't need to look. I knew that engine purr and dramatic parking brake. Claire always pulled up like she was filming a music video. Sure enough, within seconds, 3 doors opened, some shuffling on the gravel, and then, the doorbell. Not once. 3 times. Then knocking. I sighed. Put the tongs down. And didn't answer. They knocked again. Then Claire's voice rang out, loud and exasperated. Nate! We know you're home. Your truck's right there, and we can smell the food. I stayed quiet. Then Dad added, sharp and gruff. Come on. Enough's enough. We just need a few minutes. Ah. There it was. The we, like they were a united front, and not just 3 people equally bad at owning a mistake. Then Mom chimed in with that sing-song guilt-drenched tone. Sweetheart, we've all made mistakes. Let's not be stubborn. Let's not be stubborn. They really had no idea. After 5 minutes of standing there, enough time for my chicken to start sizzling and for Claire to loudly complain that she was sweating through her lashes, I finally opened the door. Not wide. Just a crack. Need something? I asked. Claire rolled her eyes. Obviously. Why are you acting like we're strangers? I looked at her. You are. She gasped like I'd slapped her. Dad stepped forward. This has gone far enough. We're family. I nodded. We are. Which is why I assumed, when I bought a house, hosted a barbecue, and invited you, you'd show up. Claire muttered. You're seriously still mad about that? No, I said. I'm just no longer surprised. They stood there like they were waiting for me to invite them in. I didn't. Instead, I stepped out onto the porch, closed the door behind me, and leaned against the railing. Bianca still scratched? I asked casually. Claire looked away. Thermostat working again? I asked Dad. He grumbled. Basement lights fixed? I asked Mom. Her lips pressed tight. I nodded. Cool. They stayed silent. And then Mom said it. We need you, Nate. That sentence should have hit different. But all I felt was pity. Not for me. For them. Because they'd built a world where I was their backup plan. Their fixer. Their fallback. And now that I'd stepped away? They had no plan B. I know, I said. You always did. But the thing is, I don't need you back. Dad's brows furrowed. What the hell does that mean? It means, I said slowly, that this porch, this house, this piece, it's mine. And I'm not trading it for your emergencies, your guilt trips, or Claire's scratch and whine routine. Claire snapped. You're so dramatic. I smiled. Says the girl who threw a fit over a mirror. She glared. We came here to make peace. No, I said. You came here because things broke. And the guy who always fixed them stopped showing up. Then I stepped back toward the door. Hope you figure it out. I added. But not here. And I closed it. This time? They didn't knock again. 2 weeks passed. No texts. No calls. No sudden knocks at the door. Just silence, which I didn't mind. I got more done in those 2 weeks than I had in months. Finished the porch. Put up string lights in the backyard. Built a fire pit. Cleaned the garage. The peace was louder than their chaos had ever been. But life, of course, had one more twist queued up. It came through a DM from Melanie, my cousin. OMG Nate, did you know your name's on the flyer for that community fundraiser next Saturday? I blinked. I had agreed to sponsor a local charity cookout a while back, donated supplies, covered the grow rental, even offered to host the next one if they needed a place. Didn't think it'd be a big deal. Melanie sent a screenshot. Right there on the bottom. Catered with support from Nate Ellis, Ellis Property Services. I laughed. The logo looked legit. Kevin must have helped. Turns out, he told the committee about me after I fixed his fence and refused to charge. They asked who helped, and I said, the guy next door who throws BBQs no one shows up to. He'd said. Guess they remembered. Saturday came, and I showed up just as people were arriving. There was a banner. Live music. A table stacked with ribs, sliders, and grilled corn. And a sign near the entrance that read, proudly sponsored by Ellis Property Services. With my name underneath. I didn't ask for that. But I didn't take it down either. Halfway through the event, I spotted them. Claire. Mom. Dad. They weren't dressed for a fundraiser. Claire had on heels. Dad looked uncomfortable. Mom was scanning faces like she was looking for someone familiar. They hadn't seen the sign yet. I didn't approach them. Just grabbed a plate, took my seat, and let the universe do its thing. Because eventually, they found it. I watched as Claire stopped, squinted, and slowly read the banner. Mom gasped. Dad's expression shifted, recognition, then confusion, then something else. Claire looked around, spotted me, and froze. I raised my glass. Didn't smile. Didn't wave. Just looked at her. She turned away. They didn't stay long. Didn't say a word. Didn't even grab a plate. By sunset, the event was winding down. A few neighbors offered compliments. Someone asked about my business. I handed them a card. And as I packed up, Kevin walked over, clapped me on the back. Your family looked surprised. I nodded. They didn't know I do more than fix things. He grinned. They do now. Later that night, my phone buzzed. One message. From Dad. We didn't know you were doing all that. I stared at it. Then typed back. You never asked? And hit send. Then I turned off my phone, lit the fire pit, and toasted a marshmallow alone in my backyard, not because I was lonely, but because for the first time ever, I wasn't waiting for them to show up.